You don't have to move to Dubai or a far-flung island to legally reduce or even eliminate your taxes, and yes, even for Americans. Today, we're going to talk about some of the hidden tax-friendly gems that are very close to where you live. As our clients have become more successful over the years, we actually hear more requests for these closer to home tax havens because people are worried about time zones. They may have an on-the-ground business that they're able to leave and reduce their personal tax burden, but they still have to call the manager. And so one of the downsides of a place in Asia, for example, if you're coming from North America, is you might be 12 or 13 or 14 hours ahead, and that's something that folks don't always want. I can tell you, when I spend time in Kuala Lumpur and I want to check on the stock market in the US or in Mexico, you're sipping Prosecco on your balcony and it's dark when the market opens, and that's not something that a lot of people want to deal with. So today we're going to run through, for North Americans, for Europeans, and for Australians and folks from New Zealand, where you can go that's not that far from home, where you can go back and visit, where the time zones work, and you may be surprised which of these countries are tax friendly. So let's start with folks from North America. And one country that a lot of folks have been moving to is Mexico. And what I've told you is Mexico has a more complicated tax system. It's not a tax system that you necessarily want to get into if your goal at some point is to leave Mexico, if your goal is to become a citizen, even if you want to buy a property. There are some ways for folks who are more transient to live in Mexico and not be in the tax system. If you're in the tax system, you're going to pay. And so if you want to go to Mexico, the answer is, how do I not get in that tax system? It's something that we've talked to people about. It doesn't work for everybody, but obviously Mexico is a big country with lots of different options, lots of places to live for whatever your taste may be. That's one place you can look. One place a lot of people look because it's English speaking is Belize. This is certainly a more sleepy place. I think it is often overhyped by folks in the industry because people have certain business interests there and they want to kind of shoehorn you into Belize. We don't do that at Nomad Capitalist. We have dozens of options. We have our own back-end system called Minerva. We've got a whole strategy and research team where we're building so many options that we don't have to force people into one place. But there are people who like the idea of living in Belize. It is more targeted at people who are retirees, certainly people who are older. And by the way, you can get residence permits in all these countries that we're going to talk about today, if not citizenship. So these are places that you can actually move, not just theory. Elsewhere in Central America, Nicaragua, more of a niche play, not some of the best news recently. San Juan del Sur in the south is a nice place. People who like to surf enjoy spending time in Nicaragua. This may not be your full-time home, but if you're willing to spend a decent chunk of your time there, you could be a tax resident, and they have a favorable tax system. Central America is not a place where you want to be in the capital city. So if you're me and you like cities, you might end up, as I did, with a gun in your face in Managua. This is a place where you want to be a little bit further afield in one of the colonial towns, one of the beach towns. Nicaragua, we've had clients with millions who wanted to move there just to be left alone from the tax perspective and the freedom perspective. That's a bit more niche. Costa Rica next door, obviously more open. They've waffled over the years. Are we going to have the tax friendly? Are we going to stay tax friendly? Are we going to not stay tax friendly? It can still be tax friendly in Costa Rica. It's more expensive. That's going to come with all the benefits of more development. It's a pretty well-run country, eco-friendly country. Obviously more expensive than a place like Nicaragua. There's parts of southern Nicaragua they say could be as nice as Costa Rica at some point in the future, that it's, a generation behind. But Costa Rica is the more developed one. And of course, Panama is the one big city in Central America, outside of whatever you might consider in Mexico, that is livable. But also you've got places outside of Panama City, tax friendly, numerous different residence permits you can get. What's great about Latin America is you don't have to have a lot of money to get a residence permit. So if you're just starting your business and you're from the US or you're from Canada, you want to find somewhere to move and reduce your taxes from the start, reduce your cost of living so you have more money to put back into the business, have better weather in the winter, be more productive. Latin America is a region that's pretty open. You don't have to invest $1 million in a lot of these countries. You can just move in by saying, hey, here's some income I have, or here's some minimal amount of savings I can put in a bank account, for example. In the Caribbean, you have the Bahamas. My perspective is the best approach is buying real estate. They want big players there, so that's not going to be one of the more affordable places. That is going to be a more expensive place to get into and live in, but obviously very tax-friendly place. You've got the Cayman Islands, the same situation. There you can start a company, and that's an interesting thing. In some ways, it could function as a sort of Dubai of the Caribbean, where you can bring team members in from around the world if that's the kind of environment you want to have. You have, that special economic zone, that free zone, as the UAE now has the 9% tax on companies. The Cayman Islands is going to cost you a lot to live in. Hey, cost of real estate in Dubai is more than doubled in the last couple of years. So the Cayman Islands could be an interesting option. You've got, on the much cheaper side, Dominican Republic has a number of tax advantages that is becoming more and more interesting for a number of nomad capitalists. You have some of the countries that have citizenship by investment. Antigua and Barbuda is tax-free for individuals. If you have a business, there's ways you can work with that. St. Kitts and Nevis is entirely tax-free. You can get a Caribbean citizenship by investment in any of the 5 countries that offer it, and then you can move around the Eastern Caribbean region. So you don't have to be a citizen of St. Kitts to go and live in St. Kitts. You could find a more affordable Caribbean passport and then go and set up shop in St. Kitts. In South America, a lot of people looking for tax-friendly plus get me away from the chaos when it all hits the fan. Uruguay, sleepy country, tax-friendly for essentially 11 years. You can essentially reduce your tax to basically zero if you're moving in. They're very friendly. You get a residence permit. Citizenship does require you to spend a significant chunk of time there, but one of the best, most neutral passports in the world. Not so far away in Chile, a shorter-term tax exemption. Now, that government's taken a step in the wrong direction, but Chile, the most developed country in South America. I was parts of Santiago. It feels like you're walking around Vancouver. That could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, but it feels like Vancouver of yesteryear. And so you've got some options down there. We'll see what's going to happen in Argentina with the president down there, but right now not tax-friendly unless you're there part-time. El Salvador in Central America is one where the president's always talking about special exceptions and taxes and residence and citizenship, and I never really see that much of that come to fruition. So I don't mention Argentina and El Salvador as much. But as you can see, lots of different options. And what I think is great about a place like Uruguay, or even maybe more so Brazil, which is not going to be tax-friendly, the time zone there positions you very well between the U.S. and Europe. And so even for us, hiring people around the world, we like that GMT -3 time zone because they can pivot in both directions. And if you have a global team, that could be worth considering. If you live in Europe, where can you go? Generally, you're looking at the smaller places in Europe. I'll come back with an exception or two in a minute. Gibraltar, for example, good for crypto, basically lump sum tax, more affordable than some of the other British-related options. So Gibraltar, working out their relationship with the Schengen area in Europe. We've had people who've moved from places like Ireland to Gibraltar for just the better weather. It is not a big place, but people do go into Spain. They do travel around Europe. Jersey in the Channel Islands, they have a lump sum deal as well that's more expensive than Gibraltar. People say, oh, the weather, who wants UK weather? Well, the weather there is different than the mainland UK. It is, as they say, a part of France in some ways, the Channel Islands. Malta in the Mediterranean has a non-dom tax program, as does Cyprus, further east in the Mediterranean. So the money that you bring in is taxable, but those are some of the more friendly non-dom programs compared to Ireland, which has a program. If you are a British citizen, you have the right to live in Ireland. You do not have to get a residence permit. Now, Malta will happily, give you a residence permit. Jersey, Gibraltar, you can easily get those residence permits, and obviously Jersey and Gibraltar British citizens are welcome as well. Switzerland, everybody knows Switzerland, more expensive, not the place where you're building your business, a bit more laid back and maybe for retirement. Anybody can move to Switzerland if you're a European passport holder. And so the trick we've told you in the past, we've had clients who've said, I'm going to get Malta citizenship through their MEIN, basically investment program. It's going to take me 18 months. I'm going to spend close to $1 million to get that passport. But then I'm going to go to Switzerland. And because I have the right as an EU citizen, even though Switzerland's not part of the EU, I'm going to pay half the tax rate because I don't need to get a residence permit in exchange. And so being European and going to Switzerland has more tax advantages than being American or Canadian or Australian and going to Switzerland. But if you're going to move to somewhere like Geneva or Lucerne, and you're looking at paying something, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in taxes every year, and you could cut that in half, the ROI in that $1 million passport, which then allows you to have all the other benefits of European citizenship, potentially you get rid of your first citizenship at some point, that's beneficial. Other European countries you haven't thought about, Greece has numerous tax incentives, from lump sum for real estate investors to retirees. Italy recently doubled their lump sum program. It was 100,000 euros a year for a single. Now it's 200,000 euros a year. But a lot of people want to live in Italy. The question you have to ask yourself is, if I'm a 7 or 8 figure entrepreneur, where am I going to live in a place like Italy, where I can be efficient and stuff can get done and I'm not going to drive myself crazy? Now, part of the benefits of dramatically reducing your taxes, you can go out and hire a household staff. You can go out and hire someone who lives in. You can go out and hire a personal business manager. You can go out and hire a great assistant. I can tell you, it's harder to find very internationally minded versions of those people than you might think, but you can find those people. I have done it over the years. But you're probably going to need some of that to help you manage in some of these more southern locations, because stuff is not going to be as efficient as you might find it in Germany, for example, for all their crazy high taxes. So Italy has that. Bulgaria also has just low taxes out of the box. Serbia has a very flexible tax system. You could potentially exclude most, if not all, of your income from the system. Montenegro has made some changes, but they're still semi-flexible. So you've got a lot of options in Europe. In fact, almost as many tax-friendly countries as non-tax-friendly countries in Europe. The question is, do you want to be in an island? Do you want to be in the Mediterranean? Do you want to be in the Atlantic? Do you want to be in Eastern Europe? What is it you're looking for, and what's that quality of life? So there are lots of options for Europe, and then you will stay in that European time zone. You've also got places in Africa that are on that time zone. So Mauritius is relatively tax-friendly, for example, in Africa, and that could work. If you're from Australia, if you're from New Zealand, if you're from somewhere else in Asia, you've got Malaysia is still tax-friendly. The Philippines is very tax-friendly with their territorial system. Singapore is a very expensive place to get into these days, even if you're starting a Singaporean company. That's going to cost you a lot more in the long run by moving your company to Singapore, when you could live in Malaysia, for example, and have your company in Labuan or in Hong Kong or the British Virgin Islands or any number of tax-friendly countries. We host our annual event, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up again in Malaysia. It's a 4-day event. We have the best information, the best networking with, this year was about 800 people from all around the world, and some of the best entertainment. It's a real show. We put it on in Kuala Lumpur because I think it's a place that you ought to see. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/live. Make sure you get on the waiting list for that again, because we did sell out in 14 days. This is the event you want to come to. And you learn about all this kind of stuff in detail. You learn from other people. Where are they living? You talk to people. You get strategies. That's the kind of the benefit of coming to an event. But Malaysia, Philippines, I think Singapore for a lot of folks is not going to work. But hey, we have clients that they can afford to make some very serious investments. Thailand is less tax-friendly. We've talked about this a little over a year ago. There are still ways to make Thailand tax-friendly if you're at the 7 or 8 figure income level. You've got decent tax-friendly countries in Asia as well. So whether you're coming from the US or Canada, whether you're coming from Europe, whether you're coming from Australia or New Zealand or anywhere else, the bottom line is there's a lot of tax-friendly countries there, including many that are in your backyard. Obviously, you can add in the South Pacific, places like Vanuatu. If you're living in Australia, that could work. They've got residents, they've got citizenship by investment. But here's the thing. What citizenship do you have? How does it impact where you travel? How does it impact your relationships? How does it impact your reputation? Where do you live? What kind of income do you have? The UAE, for example, was never the best place, as are some of these places on this list. Was never the best place if you have dividend income or if you have royalty income from a source in, let's say, the United States. So the best tax-friendly places for you are going to be different based on, do you run a business? Are you an investor? Are you in crypto? Do you have capital gains? Do you have royalty income? Do you have YouTube advertising income? That could change where you go. And that's what we help people with at Nomad Capitalist. If you go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply, we will provide you with a bespoke, holistic solution. Now, you can see there's dozens of folks out there who they've hopped on the YouTube bandwagon. They're doing everything. They copy us word for word. Oh, I also have holistic plans. No one else out there has the research and development team that we do all around the world that researches every option. I was sitting next to our chief knowledge officer on a flight not too long ago, and she got an email alert pop up. Urgent tax rate changed, corporate tax rate changed in Eswatini. I don't know too many companies out there that literally have developed their own internal system to have, to troll the internet and deliver alerts to the level of corporate tax rate changes in Eswatini. So when you come to Nomad Capitalist, you will not get shoehorned into a particular program that one company wants to sell you. A lot of people will tell you they're holistic, and somehow 90% of the clients all end up going to Dubai, or all end up going to the Bahamas, or all end up going to wherever. All of our clients' plans are bespoke, they're holistic, and they're unique because you're unique. Your wants, your needs, your desires, your family situation, your fears, and your financials are all different. Go to nomadcapitalist.com/apply. We work with 7, 8, and 9 and 10-figure entrepreneurs and investors from all around the world, not just the US, not just Australia, not just Europe, but we have clients from Brazil, Vietnam, all over the place who have benefited from this approach. We'd love to help you. It's nomadcapitalist.com/apply. Tap into dozens of options built by a staff that I've trained myself over years to deliver more options than anyone else.